So I want to talk about three things, right? I want to first talk about the creative economy, and then I want to talk about African talent, and then the potential for a new form of job creation. Basically, how all these three go together. So I was thinking about like really I'm always thinking about what's the best way that everyone can really get a job, right? I know it can be difficult for maybe the entire world population to get jobs, right? Because there are so many people with different needs. There's disabled people, and there's just a different there's just so many different types of people that we have as as humanity that it could be really a challenge to cater for everyone. But like in this case, I want to basically question traditional job creation, right? And I've mentioned something similar to this in one of the previous podcasts. But like the point is, there is no way in any law. No, I don't even want to mention the law, but like it's not said anywhere that jobs should be of a certain particular type. And why am I saying this? Well, really, I'm saying this looking at that. Firstly, it is now, we've well been into, we're now into well into the fourth industrial revolution, number one, right? And that just means that there's a high use of internet. There's of course a high use of um, there's more technological activities happening, right? And more reliance on technology. But really my point here is about the internet, especially the use of the internet, and then about how so many jobs actually, businesses are started on the internet. So many jobs are found or can only be executed on the internet, right? And now coming back to African talent and looking at the creative economy, right? So the creative economy is all about really people creating content, be it written, visual, maybe audio, what's this? Like digital graphic design, video, could be sound, like music, right? All of this is a different kind of content, right? And then coming back to the the point of African talent, and really that's where I'm focusing on right now. Apart from obviously other continents out there, right? I'm looking at Africa because, like I always mention, that I mean it's already the last country when it comes to economic development. In fact, socio-economic development, right? And in no way ever since I've lived in my life as a young person has it been said that a job has to be in a certain kind and a certain kind only. For example, you only have to go to a job only if you wear a suit and a tie, right? Makes sense. Back in the days, long when maybe even before I was born, that has been the traditional way that jobs are defined, either white collar or blue collar, right? Or maybe sometimes being an artist. But that's where I'm actually trying to put the idea of African talent in, which is that number one, there's a lot of African youth that is actually so talented, be it in sports, be it in art, and really be, yeah, mostly sports and art, right? And of course also academics, but I'm trying to look into sports and art here, and the idea of job creation, right? Because at the end of the day, a job really, for you to be for you to get a job, or to put it simply, for you to get paid is because of the value that you put in a certain company, right? Because of the job that you're working. So it's about value that you have as a person. In this case, if you work at a certain company that uses maybe a technological company, it might need technological knowledge, right? Which is, of course, something that you might have to go to university for, right? And study and then get a diploma or a degree. Then you're a person of value. So you take that value, then you take it out of you, take it into your job. That's how you get paid. Now, in my opinion, that is no different than talent. Talent is a form of value. And of course, we all know that the more you improve your talent by working and practicing, the more basically valuable you become. That's why the best players in athletics, in soccer, in cricket, the best players, the most talented players, the most hardworking players that are talented get to be paid more. But now again, coming back to the idea of the creative economy and connecting all these 3 points I've been talking about: African talent, the creative economy, and potential of new job creation. The creative economy part speaks about how, in today's world, because of the fourth industrial revolution, and particularly because of now, while we were in this global lockdown, even though now restrictions are starting to ease up a bit, but there's actually a much higher activity of online content. People are watching movies, people are watching Netflix. There's a lot of video conferencing that's happening. Most things are actually happening online. And I think this is actually another chance or an opportunity that, in fact, young people, or rather platforms could be made for young people, some sort of online platform, some sort of jobs that basically allow young people to expose or to showcase their talents, which is basically their value, right? In return of course, being paid some sort of monetary return, right? Because at the end of the day, that's also how we're trying to solve this economic, socio-economic problem of especially unemployment within youth in Africa, right? As social entrepreneurs, and of course, as really members of government and all these other people that are trying really. But I'm speaking this again from a social entrepreneurship, from a social entrepreneur's perspective because I am one, and that's where I operate in. So that's what I see for me, in my opinion: jobs, talent, and the creative economy. I've even come across articles that I've read. I think it was in, I'm not exactly sure which popular US online news site, but it was basically pointing out that the creative economy also is a, I think it's a you know what? Let me not try and assume, but it was a bit, it was an industry with billions of dollars, basically, right? So for me, with my little knowledge of the talent that Africa has, and especially the understanding of the high unemployment rate that we have amongst youth, and I understand that there's also still a huge problem of access to free internet and also access to smartphone. But statistics about smartphones, I remember, have increased so high that there's actually a much larger use of smartphones. It's just that at this moment, I don't have the statistics with me. But this is just me trying to point out that we don't have to always use the same method of taking a child to school, whereas whereas we know very well that most of these kids come from very poor families that can't even afford school fees. So in fact, that will never happen, which might cause another generation of the family to not go to school, meaning that they won't become people of value, they won't be employable, and they will again continue to live in poverty. There should be different changes, but you find that these very same families that are in this poverty situation have access to cell phones, they have access to smartphones. Some have smartphones. You might find that on an average, I'm not saying in all families, but on an average, there could be maybe one smartphone in the poorest household in an African country. And I understand some countries, the poverty rate is so high, and the situations are um, they're so extreme that maybe there isn't even access to cell phones. But I'm speaking about those that have, because I mean, not everything can be solved, all at once. I'm just giving out my opinion, or rather my thoughts, based on what I've learned and what I think can work based on what also is happening currently in the world. So definitely this can also be another way that we can start employing people. It might be a different way of working, but at the end of the day, it's about what value are you providing to your consumer, right? In, if you're an employee working for an IT company, the value that you're giving to your consumer is actually you giving value to the company by fixing or create or giving value to that company, right? And then of course it becomes a better company, it performs very well, and it does well in the market, right? And it serves its people well, it serves its customers with whatever IT products or services very well. Same with a very talented kid in Africa who maybe is very good with acting, they're very good with acting, or they've, yeah, let's just take acting for example. They start a YouTube channel or something, right? It doesn't have to be YouTube. This could be the introduction of a new platform that's much more, I wouldn't say YouTube is not dependable, but I mean YouTube is quite open, right? Like YouTube is very open for a lot of things: news, politics, entertainment. There's just so many things happening in there. But my point is that if there could be a platform, especially with the intention to create jobs by using talent as value, and then of course the consumer that consumed on the other end somehow pays for consuming that content, same as Netflix, but it's just that Netflix is for movie. I hope whoever is listening gets my idea here, because if we're going to wait and always be depending on the same method of creating jobs and getting jobs, then we should rather we should maybe even forget about trying to solve, the continent and even the world's socioeconomic problems and state, because it's way too slow. And I'm not saying that people that are the leaders that are trying are not trying. They are, but there's always a much efficient way that needs to be, executed. So this is just what I think. Basically, African talent, the creative economy, and the potential for new jobs. How can you combine that and actually address Africa's social economic problems that could maybe even exponentially accelerate the development? So yeah.